Have you ever thought about how you could improve your English in a practical way, without needing hours of intensive study or memorizing lists of words? What if I told you that, instead of sticking to the traditional learning method, you can simply use your own everyday situations to learn new words and improve your fluency? That's right. You can learn English while making coffee in the morning, while walking to work, or even while shopping at the supermarket. It seems too simple, right? But believe me, this technique works, and it could be the key to unlocking the fluency you so desire. Before we start, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, take the opportunity now to click the subscribe button and activate the notification bell. This way, you don't miss any tips for improving your English in a practical and fun way. Let's go on this journey together to make English part of your daily life. Now, let's go and start learning in a simple and efficient way. In today's video, I will show you how you can turn every moment of your daily life into an opportunity to learn new words in English. And don't worry if you're a beginner or already at an intermediate level. What I'm going to share will work for any level of learning, as the idea is to make English a natural part of your day, without forcing it or requiring a lot of extra time. The coolest thing about this is that, when you incorporate English into your daily activities, you will notice that, little by little, the words begin to become part of your active vocabulary, and, most importantly, you will gain confidence using them without having to think too much about it. This video is for you who feel that learning English could be more natural and less stressful. If you are looking for a way to apply English in a practical and fun way, this is the right place. Now, let's go, because I'm going to show you how to transform your everyday life into a real classroom. Many of us start learning English with all the excitement, but over time, we face a very common problem: how to maintain and apply vocabulary in everyday life. What happens is that, after a few weeks or months of studying, we end up forgetting the words we learned, or simply not being able to use them naturally in everyday conversations. You've probably been there, right? I know how frustrating it is. You learn new words, attend classes, do exercises, but when the time comes to actually use English, whether to ask for something on a trip, or even in a conversation at work, the words seem to disappear from your head. It feels like there's a blockage, an empty space in which you simply can't access the vocabulary you've spent so much time trying to memorize. This is a problem that many English students face. What is missing in this process is constant use and daily practice. When we don't practice the language constantly, even in small moments of our daily lives, our memory ends up forgetting the words we learned. The result: we feel insecure when speaking, or worse, we start to believe that we are not good enough at the language. And the worst of all is that English is not something we can simply learn in a few weeks. Fluency comes with time, but daily practice is essential so that we can maintain what we have already learned. And this is where many people fail. It's not for lack of effort or interest, but for lack of constant practice. Have you ever found yourself thinking, "I know how to say this in English, but I can't remember"? Or perhaps, have you ever tried to speak and felt that the vocabulary you know wasn't flowing naturally? If you've experienced this, you're not alone. The solution to this is not studying more hours a day, or memorizing more and more words. The secret is to integrate English into your life in a practical and natural way. By turning everyday activities into learning opportunities, you'll start to see real changes in your fluency. But don't worry, there's no need to worry. I will show you exactly how to do this in a simple and effective way. Throughout this video, you will understand how you can learn new words and, best of all, how to apply them into your daily routine in a way that becomes second nature to you. Now that you know the problem that many face, let's talk about the solution. Now that you know what the problem is, the lack of constant practice and the difficulty of applying the vocabulary learned, let's talk about the solution. And the good news is that this solution is very simple and can be applied immediately. Use every day stories to learn and memorize English words. But what exactly are everyday stories? Well, imagine that, during your day, you engage in different activities: drinking coffee, going to work, buying something at the market, making lunch, chatting with friends, and so on. Each of these activities is a story you can tell in English. When you start to describe these situations, even in a simple way, you are practicing and fixing the words you learn. The key here is context. When you associate words with moments in your everyday life, those words become easier to remember and, most importantly, you learn to use them naturally. Vocabulary stops being something abstract and starts to be part of your real life, which makes it easier to use without thinking too much. Here are some practical examples of how you can apply this in your daily life. Waking up in the morning. Instead of just thinking, "I wake up," or "I get up," think about the details of this activity. I wake up, stretch my arms, and get out of bed. You're practicing simple verbs and phrases, but it's all very real and relevant to your life. Making coffee. I'm making coffee now. I put sugar in the coffee, and I add milk. Note that you are practicing vocabulary that you would use every day. You are creating a story by describing what you do, simply and directly. Leaving home. I leave my house at 8 a.m. I take the bus to work. The bus is crowded, but I manage to find a seat. Here, you are practicing phrases that really apply to your day, and all of this helps to establish vocabulary. These are just a few examples, but the goal is for you to start thinking in English throughout the day, describing in your mind or out loud what you are doing. This helps your brain make associations, which improves your memory and fluency. The great advantage of this technique is that it will fit naturally into your routine. There's no need for extra effort or a heavy study load. You'll just start thinking in English while doing what you normally do. You can even start with short sentences, and, as you feel more comfortable, increase the complexity. For example, instead of just saying "I go to the supermarket," you could say, "I go to the supermarket to buy vegetables and fruit. I like to make salads with them in the evening." This not only expands vocabulary, but also improves sentence construction. Constant practice is key here. Don't worry if at first you don't know all the words or feel unsure. The important thing is that you are creating a daily practice. Think of it like a workout. The more you do, the easier it will get. Now, maybe you're thinking, "But I'm a beginner. How can I do this if I don't know many words?" The answer is simple. Start with what you know. Don't worry about using complex or advanced level words. The secret is to start simple and add new words, little by little. For example, when talking about what you're doing, include new words you've recently learned. "I bought a book yesterday, and now I'm reading it." Even though the phrase is simple, it's a great way to practice what you know. This process not only improves vocabulary, but also boosts confidence. When you start to use English more practically, in real situations, you will realize that you are no longer just memorizing words. You are living English. It becomes part of your routine, and learning becomes much more natural. So, the next step is to start incorporating this method into your daily life. Think about what you do every day and how you can describe these activities in English. This will not only help improve your vocabulary, but it will also make you feel more comfortable and confident when speaking. And over time, you will realize that constant practice becomes something completely automatic. It will be like breathing. The English will be there, naturally, without you having to force it. If you think about the little things you already do during the day and start to describe them, you will see how learning English becomes more dynamic, simpler, and, most importantly, fun. And you won't even realize how much you've already learned, because you'll be applying everything in a practical way. Now that you know how to use everyday stories to learn English in a practical and fun way, it's time to make this method part of your routine. The secret is to make these stories a habit, and that doesn't mean you need to make big changes or dedicate extra hours of your day. I'll give you some simple tips to incorporate this practice naturally into your daily life without stress. Start with small sentences. If you are a beginner, You may find it difficult to start speaking in English all the time. Don't worry, start small. During your day, look for moments when you can speak or think in English, simply. For example, when you look in the mirror, you might say, "I'm getting ready for work." When drinking coffee, think, "I'm drinking coffee, it's my favorite." These simple phrases help you put English into your routine without being forced. Use technology to your advantage. If you like using your cell phone, how about using this habit to improve your English? A great way to practice is to use voice recording apps or even record audio on what you can create a small voice diary in English describing what you did during the day. For example, I went to the gym today. I exercised for 30 minutes and then I had a smoothie. This will help you stick to your words and increase your confidence when speaking. Additionally, many language apps like Duolingo or Anki have spaced repetition systems that help you review new words, and you can use them to review vocabulary you've used in your everyday stories. Constant practice is the key. Use post-its or vocabulary lists. Another simple tip is to write new words on post-its and stick them in places you see often, like on the refrigerator door, on the bathroom mirror, or on your computer. Whenever you look at these words, try using them in a sentence that relates to your everyday life. This will reinforce the vocabulary you are learning. Another cool way to review is to create a vocabulary list. When you learn a new word, write it down and create a little story with it. For example, if you learned the word grocery store, write something like, "I went to the grocery store and bought vegetables and fruit." This makes the new words connect to your real world, and the memory becomes stronger. Talk to someone or practice out loud. You don't need a big opportunity to speak English. Just make the most of the moments you already have. Try speaking to yourself in English, or even to friends who are also learning. You can create a small conversation about what happened during the day, like, "I met a friend today. We talked about our work and life." If you don't have someone to talk to, no problem. Try practicing out loud. Talking to yourself is a way to train your pronunciation and also to reinforce what you have learned. If you feel embarrassed, that's okay. This is normal at first. Over time, you will notice that this becomes more and more natural. Transform what you already do into English. One of the most effective ways to integrate English into your life is to use the activities you already do every day to create stories. If you enjoy cooking, think about the words you would use during the process. "I'm cooking dinner, I'm chopping the vegetables, and I'm putting everything in the pot." If you like watching movies or series, try describing them in English. This will expand your vocabulary and also improve your ability to understand English in different contexts. Set a daily goal. To make this a habit, set a daily goal. It could be something as simple as using at least 5 new words in your day. For example, today, try using the words cook, eat, run, shop, and walk throughout your day, describing what you are doing. This small exercise will keep your learning constant and will help you feel more comfortable using the language. Be consistent, not perfect. The key to success is consistency, not perfection. You don't have to speak perfectly all the time. The important thing is to keep practicing and not get discouraged. If you make mistakes, that's okay. That's part of the process. When you allow yourself to make mistakes, you learn much faster. The more you speak, the more fluent you will become, even if you start with small sentences. And most important of all, have fun. Learning English can be enjoyable when you find ways to integrate it into your daily life naturally. Think of English as something that will help you connect with more people, explore the world, and even improve your career. When you realize it, the words will flow more easily, and your vocabulary will grow exponentially. Now that you know how to apply everyday stories to learn English, it's time to understand why this method is so effective. If you think about it, learning a language goes far beyond memorizing words and grammatical rules. True learning happens when we are able to integrate the language in a practical way into our lives. And that's exactly what everyday stories provide. a practical, natural, and fun way to learn and retain English. First, let's talk about vocabulary retention. When you learn words in isolation or without context, they tend to be easily forgotten. When you associate them with real situations in your everyday life, the scenario changes. These words come to have personal meaning for you because they are connected to a lived experience. This creates an emotional bond with the vocabulary, which makes it much easier to remember them when necessary. For example, if you learned the word coffee while making your coffee in the morning, it is much easier to remember it than if you had just memorized the word from the vocabulary list. Another big benefit is trust. Many English students feel afraid of speaking or making mistakes. This is completely normal, but by using everyday stories, you start to speak more relaxed all the time and without worrying about being perfect. By describing your daily actions, you begin to use the language in a relaxed way, which reduces anxiety and increases your confidence. Remember, the more you practice, the more comfortable you will become. When you start talking about what you did during the day, you are already practicing English naturally, without the pressure of being in a formal learning situation. And here's the best part of all: by integrating English into your everyday activities, learning becomes less tiring and more continuous. When you learn English this way, you don't need to make huge sacrifices of time or effort. You just need to do what you already do, a little more consciously. Daily practice becomes natural, like a second skin, and you don't even realize you're learning. Now, you might be asking yourself, but does this really work? Or is it just another superficial learning tip? The answer is simple. Yes, it works. The real magic of this approach lies in the fact that it makes learning part of your everyday life, making it much more effective than any other technique that relies exclusively on dedicated time or formal classes. Another valuable benefit is increased fluency. Fluency does not mean knowing everything about the language, but rather being able to use words and phrases correctly and easily in any situation. When describing your actions in English during the day, you will feel that the vocabulary begins to flow more automatically. Instead of having to stop and think about every word you're going to use, it will come naturally because you've already associated it with a real situation. This helps to develop fluency much more efficiently. Plus, by creating these little stories, you start to expand your vocabulary without even realizing it. You're not just learning new words in isolation, but you're inserting those words into sentences and contexts. This creates a solid foundation of vocabulary that is harder to forget. And at the same time, you also learn how to use these words correctly in different contexts, which is key to speaking English with confidence. Last but not least, this approach helps you consolidate what you have already learned. Often, when we learn new vocabulary or an expression, we tend to forget it soon after. But by using them repeatedly in different everyday stories, you reinforce these learnings and make them part of your active vocabulary. This constant repetition, without being tiring, is what will allow you to continue progressing and achieving fluency. In summary, the benefits of this method are clear: vocabulary retention, increased confidence, continuous practice, and vocabulary expansion, all naturally and without pressure. The most interesting thing is that, as you apply this technique in your daily life, you will realize that English stops being just a subject or study and becomes a genuine part of your life. If you already know how to use everyday stories to learn English and know the benefits of this technique, let me share with you a personal experience. I'm no different from many English students. I've experienced moments of frustration when trying to memorize words and feeling insecure when speaking. But, some time ago, I discovered the power of integrating English into my daily life, and that's when things started to change. When I started learning English, I tried, as many do, to study for hours on end, memorizing endless lists of words and doing grammar exercises. Although these methods worked to some extent, I still felt insecure using the language. It seemed that when I needed to speak in English, the words just wouldn't come to mind. The vocabulary I spent so much time trying to memorize seemed to slip through my fingers. It was frustrating. It was then that I started thinking, what if I changed the way I learn? What if I started using English in real situations in my everyday life, instead of relying on lists and formal classes? That's when I started incorporating English into the little things I did every day. What I was wearing, what I was eating, what I saw on TV, what I was doing at work. I started describing out loud the things I did. For example, in the morning, as I was getting ready to leave the house, I would say to myself, I'm putting on my shoes, I'm grabbing my keys, I'm leaving the house. They were simple sentences, but the most important thing is that they were related to my daily life. These little descriptions helped me realize that, rather than memorizing disconnected words, I was actually using vocabulary in a way that was practical and relevant to me. As I continued to do this, I realized that the words I was learning were becoming natural. When someone asked me something in English, I already had the answer on the tip of my tongue because the words were inserted in my context. It gave me a confidence I had never experienced before. I started to realize that English was becoming a real part of my life and not something I needed to force. One of the biggest challenges I faced was when I started trying to describe more complex activities, like my work. I'm a person who handles several projects at the same time, and before I started applying this technique, I was always lost when trying to talk about what I was doing. But as I started to use English to describe what I was doing, for example, I'm managing several projects at work. I have a meeting with my team this afternoon. Everything started to fall into place. Now, not only did I know the words related to my work, but I also felt that these words were part of my active vocabulary. This process helped me increase my fluency in ways I had never experienced. Instead of memorizing words and trying to memorize them without context, I was continually practicing in a context that made sense to me. I was learning naturally and, more importantly, I was using English practically. Furthermore, daily practice made me realize how English was naturally integrating into my life. I was no longer just studying the language, I was living English. Now, I speak more calmly, without needing so much effort to remember the words. They are always there, within reach of my mind, because English has become part of my daily life. And the most incredible thing of all is that, with this daily practice, I didn't need extra hours of study or complicated tools. I just needed to start talking about my daily life in a simple and authentic way, and fluency came gradually and steadily. I realized that, by learning in an integrated and practical way, English became a more fluid and natural part of my life. So if you're thinking, will this work for me too? The answer is yes. The key is to start. Even if you're just starting out, or if you're already at an intermediate level, integrating English into your daily activities can make a huge difference to your fluency and confidence. The time has come to take the first step. The secret to success here is constant practice and commitment. You don't have to do anything big or change your life completely. Just start integrating English into your daily life in a simple and natural way. So what can you do now? I challenge you to put into practice the tips I shared in this video. Try, throughout your day, to start describing your activities in English. It doesn't matter if you're starting with simple sentences. The important thing is to start. Think about the things you already do every day. Drink coffee, go to work, shop at the market. Each of these activities is an opportunity to learn and practice. And don't stop there. I want you to share your everyday stories with us. In the comments below, share a phrase or a short story from your day in English. How will you start applying this method? What words are you already using? I want to know what you are doing to integrate English into your daily life. This will not only help you reinforce what you've learned, but it will also create a learning community where we can support each other. And if you liked this video and want more tips like this, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell. This way, you don't miss any new content that will help you learn English in a practical and fun way. And if you know someone who is also looking to improve their English, share this video with them. After all, learning is more fun when we do it together. Now it's your turn to act. Start integrating English into your daily life today. I know it may seem challenging at first, but remember, fluency comes with practice. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because that's how we learn. The journey of learning English is continuous, and what matters is that you keep practicing day after day. Let's do this together. With small steps, you will see how English will become more and more natural in your life. So, how do you feel now? Hopefully more motivated and prepared to start incorporating English into your daily activities. Remember that learning a new language doesn't have to be complicated or tiring. By integrating English into your daily life, you not only learn in a practical way, but also in a fun and natural way. I want to thank you for watching this far. I hope this video has shown you that, by making English a part of your daily life, you can advance much faster than you imagine. The most important thing is to start, and believe me, the more you practice, the more natural English will become in your life. And, finally, here's a tip. Don't give up. The path to fluency is an ongoing journey, and every step counts. Keep practicing, keep making small changes in your daily life, and you will soon notice big results. English is a powerful tool that can open many doors, both personal and professional, and, over time, you will feel like it is a natural extension of you. So, get started today. Create your little everyday stories, and let English flow into your routine. Don't worry about perfection, but about consistency. The important thing is to practice every day, without rushing, but with a lot of determination. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to like and share, and of course, subscribe to receive more tips like this. See you in the next video, and keep practicing. English will become a natural part of your everyday life, just like any other skill you practice regularly. Until next time.